Imagine a world locked inside hospital walls where viruses spiral out of control and isolation becomes a death sentence. In this ranking, you'll discover hidden movies and series about quarantine, medical chaos, and experiments that prove the scariest nightmares are not born in fantasy, but in laboratories and hospital wards. Afflicted. Afflicted is a found-footage horror film that begins like an ordinary trip of a lifetime. Two friends embark on a trip around the world and document each step with a camera. Everything changes when one of them is bitten by a mysterious woman. At first, it seems to be just strange symptoms of an illness, but over time, the boy's body and mind begin to change alarmingly. An unexplained infection gives him superhuman strength, but at the same time takes away his control over himself. This is a story of friendship put to the test and the terrifying discovery that the most dangerous monster is born inside a person. The film draws you in with its realism and brutal atmosphere, becoming one of the strongest found footage in recent years. Between. In between, there are no zombies or spectacular disasters, yet the world is collapsing into rubble. A mysterious epidemic breaks out in Pretty Lake, killing all adults over 22. Overnight, teenagers and children become the only residents of the town. When the government cordons off the area and no one is allowed to enter or leave, the youngsters are forced to make their own rules, share resources, and fight for survival. This is a coming-of-age story under the most difficult conditions, where friendships and love clash with greed, fear, and the need for power. The series shows that the end of the world doesn't always come with a bang. Sometimes all it takes is silence from the adults who have suddenly disappeared. Deranged. Panic suddenly breaks out in Seoul. One by one, people start throwing themselves into the river as if something invisible is pushing them towards death. Behind this nightmare is a mysterious parasite that takes control of organisms and turns healthy residents into captive victims. Deranged shows a race against time in which the father of a family tries to save his loved ones before the disease takes their lives. Authorities declare a state of emergency and the city drowns in chaos and fear. It's a combination of a medical thriller and a disaster film that is striking not only for its depiction of the epidemic, but also for the drama of a man helpless in the face of an invisible enemy. Flu. It was an ordinary day in Seongnam near Seoul until a virus suddenly appeared that turned everyday life into a nightmare in a few hours. The infected died instantly, panic gripped the streets, and the entire city was quarantined. Authorities tried to maintain order, but fear and chaos grew faster than any action. In this world of danger, a rescue worker and a doctor try to save a little girl who may be the key to finding a cure. Flu, from 2013, is a South Korean disaster thriller that combines dynamic action scenes with the drama of ordinary people trapped in a no-win situation. It's a story about how thin the line between solidarity and fighting for one's life is when every breath could be the last. Mulberry Street. A strange epidemic breaks out on the streets of New York, turning ordinary life into a nightmare in an instant. Mulberry Street is a dark horror film in which a virus carried by rats begins to infect people. Those infected lose their humanity and gradually transform into bloodthirsty beasts resembling rat-human hybrids. At the center of events are the residents of one tenement on the title street who desperately try to survive the siege of the disease and increasingly brutal attacks. The film, despite its low budget, stands out for its claustrophobic atmosphere and dirty realism, showing the apocalypse not through the spectacle of effects, but through the fear of ordinary people trapped in the heart of an infected city. ReGenesis. Have you ever wondered what would happen if science got out of control? The series takes viewers to the Norback Institute, where a group of scientists confront the greatest threats of the modern world. These include viruses that can kill millions, genetic experiments that change the limits of nature, and bioterrorism that can paralyze entire countries. The series does not escape into fiction full of special effects. It is based on real problems, showing how thin the line is between a discovery that saves lives and a mistake that can destroy them. It's an intense story about science, ethics, and responsibility that asks whether we're really ready for the consequences of our own ambitions. Survivors. In an instant, Britain is plunged into silence. A mysterious virus instantly kills most of the population, leaving only a handful of survivors. Survivors is a series that follows Abby Grant, a resilient woman desperately searching for her son. Together with other survivors, she tries to find her way in a world without law, government, or civilization. Each day becomes a struggle not only for food and safety, but also to maintain the remnants of humanity. It's a tale of fear, hope, and moral choices that can determine life or death in the new reality. The Bay. It was a normal day in a seaside town, full of families, music, and the joy of a local holiday. No one expected that a few hours later, all hell would break loose. People suddenly start getting sick, vomiting, and their bodies are covered with terrible wounds. The Bay reveals step by step the source of the tragedy: parasites in the water that mutate and turn a peaceful community into victims of a biological disaster. The story is told through footage from cameras, phones, and witness accounts, which gives it a disturbing authenticity. It's a terrifying found footage horror that shows that the greatest danger may lurk not in a distant world, but in the water we drink every day, the hot zone. In the hot zone, you will see how thin the line between everyday life and global catastrophe is. The 2019 to 2021 series is based on true events and shows the origins of the most deadly viruses of our time. The first season takes viewers back to 1989, when a virus similar to Ebola was discovered in a lab near Washington, and scientists had to stop the threat before it got out. The second season focuses on the anthrax outbreak that caused panic across the United States after the 9/11 attacks. It tells the stories of doctors, military officers, and scientists who confront an invisible enemy. The series combines medical thriller with fact-based drama, reminding us that the most dangerous scenarios are not always born in the imagination, but in reality. Viral. This film turns an ordinary, peaceful life into a terrifying nightmare. Viral tells the story of two sisters who, faced with a mysterious epidemic, are trapped in their home. The parasitic infection spreads rapidly, turning people into captives of the disease. When one of the girls begins to betray symptoms of the infection, loyalty and sisterly love clash with the brutal necessity to fight for survival. This is a story of fear, sacrifice, and difficult choices, in which the greatest tension arises not only from the external threat, but from the question: how far can you go to save someone you love? These were stories of quarantine and medical chaos that are terrifying because they feel so real. Which of these movies or series impressed you the most?